And next, an update on the market for private aircraft charters. That's the Faber report. And then while the Treasury Secretary was touring China, should he have bought a house? We'll talk to the Chief Financial Officer of Chinese real estate service eHouse about the beginnings of a rebound. Plus, Cash for Clunkers Part 2. We were one of the first to bring you this story when the bill was proposed, but will it really put the automakers back on the road to recovery? I think they tried in Egypt and sales were up 40-something%. We'll be back.
CNBC spans the globe for the most important stories that matter to you. In Lagos, exploring investing's final frontier. In Vienna, where oil takes center stage. In Beijing, with America's Treasury Secretary.
There is risk in everything the government is doing.
In Moscow, with Russia's president.
We need to have more reserve currencies where people could be investing.
Around the corner, around the globe. CNBC, first in business worldwide.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. It's Rick Santelli here, the floor of the CME Group. What's going on in the markets today? Well, I guess a good place to start, and we've been talking about it, is the relationship between the weak dollar, showing a lot of investors being pushed into, or by choice, into sectors like gold, commodities, oil. Today the dollar is higher, though, and we still see those commodities moving higher. We need to pay attention to that. As far as 10-year note rates, you can see by a one-week chart that there's an awful lot of support in the 350s, and there's resistance around 3 3/4. Rates are a bit higher today. The yield curve re-steepened a bit after yesterday's rally. It's around 270. Intraday high, forever high, is around close to 280. Its high is closed around 275. Pay attention to that. In about 2 minutes, we'll find out the government buybacks for next week. And in 45 minutes, the mini refunding next week. And it's important. 3s, 10s, 30s. And now let's go to David Faber and find out what new is going on in aircraft private charters.
There you go, Rick. That's right. You know, it's not just the start of the summer driving season for those lucky enough to afford the luxury of a private jet. It's the start of the summer flying season as well. Chances are it's not going to be quite as robust a season as in years past. Only this morning, Textron said it will be cutting jobs in its Cessna unit due to order cancellations for the planes. So is flying private a thing of the past? I'm joined now by Andrew Zarrow, who, in addition to running the private aviation company V1 Jets, also tracks private jet traffic nationwide with his company's proprietary software. Andrew, thanks for coming in.
Great to be here.
You would imagine, given the economic crisis, given the vilification of Wall Street of private jet usage by corporate executives, that things would be terrible in your industry. Is that true?
Well, the fourth quarter was the worst we've ever seen in my history in 5 years in the business, and tracking aviation usage for the last 15 years. It's been remarkably stable in business up until the fourth quarter of 08.
And what has happened since then? Has there been a bit of a rebound, as many have seen in other areas?
Absolutely. Fourth quarter was down. Our industry was down about 40% in on-demand charter. Overall usage was down about 30%. We've made half of those gains back in the first quarter. And us at V1 Jets, we're actually on track for a record quarter here in the second quarter.
No kidding. You know, it's funny. We're looking at charter usage there, of course, down. And then if we look at business usage, which I guess comprises what, private businesses or corporations?
Both public and private corporations.
It's very stable throughout. I mean, even in the boom times, it doesn't seem to go up that much or down that much in terms of hours flown. Explain that to me.
Well, you know, our industry has become sort of the scapegoat for corporate excess, and I believe it's truly unfair. For each one executive who might have used a corporate asset, maybe a jet, maybe another corporate asset inappropriately, there's hundreds of CEOs who've used private aviation amazingly effectively to deliver shareholder returns.
And are they doing it again? Are they starting to come back?
Yes. You know, if you looked at the economy, a leading indicator of economic activity is travel. You know, people get out, they get on the road, beyond the stimulative effect that happens to hotels and airlines, then they get together and conduct a business transaction, and that's a major stimulus to the economy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so people are getting out, they're back to business. The green shoots you guys mentioned quite often, we're seeing them.
You are seeing them
all over America.
No
people
kidding.
are back in action, and they're out doing business and getting back on the road.
Now, to put this in perspective, though, they're not back quite in action the way they might have been towards the end of 07 or 06,
no,
correct?
Absolutely not. It's more about value now. people have a functional need for this, but they're really allocating their capital more effectively these days.
Now, in terms of the luxury usage or plate time, you guys do a lot of flights out to the Hamptons, which, of course, has long been the place that a lot of investment bankers and hedge fund managers have their summer homes. What kind of traffic are you seeing in terms of your Hamptons business so far in this early summer?
Well, so we were worried Memorial Day weekend was going to be light, and we were sold out. We operate a unique service to the Hamptons. It's a amphibian aircraft. It's an 8-seat aircraft that operates.
That means it's a seaplane, right?
It's a seaplane. It lands on the water and on a runway. But in lieu of a helicopter, it's about half the operating cost and has twice the capacity. And it's got a much better operating
So
rate.
are you seeing a benefit as a result of people perhaps trading down from what would have been a more expensive ride out there?
That's exactly right. And in the luxury segment, I think we've seen a downsized trade going on. So they're more value conscious. People don't want to stop their behavior. They're just trying to stretch their dollars further. So where a helicopter ride for an individual might have been $3,500 out to the Hamptons, for less than half of that, they can take twice the passengers on our seaplane.
Well, there you go. Good advertisement. Listen, you know, you also, I mentioned in your intro, have this software that you are using to understand where traffic patterns are, where planes are flying, how many people are on them, where they're going, where they're coming back from. Explain it to me and give me a sense as to how it helps you understand what you're seeing or what we're seeing nationwide.
Okay, well, there's about a fleet of 3,000 aircraft that are certified by the FAA to operate nationwide in America. And they have a home base, and when they're done with their mission, their responsibility is to return back to home base. So our software allows us to tap into real time into not only their schedules, but whether they're occupied legs or filled legs. So passengers looking to head into a direction, instead of having to initiate a new flight, they can tap into a repositioning leg on a plane that's already headed in their direction.
So that makes it cheaper and more efficient, I would guess.
And it effectively recycles a flight leg. It reduces their carbon footprint. Instead of having to initiate a new flight, they're accessing a flight that's already been planned.
Final quick question here. Cessna layoffs, they're not making as many planes. That would seem to be a bad sign for your industry.
Well, we don't make or sell aircraft, so from the ownership perspective of airplanes, I think it is a bad trend. But you need to separate ownership of aircraft from usage. You don't need to own an asset to make use of it. So people need to fly. If you look at the usage that we talked about in aviation from the last 15 years, it's an effective and necessary tool for business. So people still need, think of an executive doing a road show. Investment bank's going to raise money or do a deal. In private aviation, you can hit 4 cities in 2 days versus hitting 6 cities, 2 cities in 6 days.
Right. Andrew, thanks for coming in and joining us. Good luck with those seaplane or amphibian, whatever you call them. It sounds like a reptile. Andrew Zarrow, V1 Jets. Let me send it back to you, Aaron.
Thank you. And next, we're going to check in with our CNBC Advisor Network to find out why you may want to take your dividends and run for the hills. And then the CFO of Chinese real estate services company E-House. Now, Mark, it may be Chinese housing, but it trades here on the big board. It's up about 80% this year. It has more than doubled since the Haynes bottom.
We're going to find out what the Chinese housing market may be able to tell us about our own